Thousands of ghost hunters flock here each year, many claiming to see the shadows of people and hear unexplained voices.
It looked like he stood up and jumped across the room. Well, as it turns out, he said that he was pushed.
Central Ohio, home to some of the largest and scariest haunted experiences in the Buckeye State.
Just before you leave, make sure you say you don't have any permission to follow me home, because the one said, I'm going to attach myself to you. Now, here's the sick room. I do want to let you know that we have a patient that's been in here for a while.
If walls could talk, they're talking to us.
Cold breeze, fast, cold. People have been scratched in here. Sometimes you'll see the shadows walking in front of those windows, and he got hit in the back of the head repeatedly. The spirit could have been attached to one of the dolls and then brought here.
He was in. How many people have died on this property?
Tragedies, fires, and mysterious deaths have all plagued this longtime vacant building.
G.W. Adams. He was born on October 27th, 1799 in Virginia. He is the 13th child of 13. He is the son of George Beale Adams and Anna Turner Adams. George Beale Adams, his father, was a Revolutionary soldier who also believed that owning another human being was a sin against God. In the fall of 1808, he sold his Virginia land. He freed all of his slaves that his father had left to him and moved north to get away from the slaveholding South. GW was at the time 8 years old. We are currently standing in the United States Military District reserved for anyone who fought in the Revolutionary War. In the spring of 1809, the Adams family finally arrived up here. Now, if we look over here at these maps, this right here is George Beale Adams' original land. 160 acres. Still to this day, it's the original 160 acres. All of these green dots over here, this is all the land that George Adams and his brother Edward purchased all around Dresden. So that's quite a bit of land. GW, at the age of 19, bought his first piece of land. I don't know what you guys were doing at 19. Him and his brother were as thick as thieves. They built their own mill called Prescott, which ended up getting changed to Adams Mills. Did you guys drive through Adams Mills?
I think
No?
so, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, we probably did, yeah.
Okay. Now they began making all kinds of money from that, and that's when they started buying up all this land. On September 5th, 1827, Anna Turner, GW's mother, had passed away. On September 13th, 1827, George Beale Adams passes away. Now, when George had losses, they always happened in multiples like that. In 1839, George is now 40, and he gets elected as a state representative and serves a year in politics. Now, if you notice the woodwork around here, this is the fanciest room in the house, and that is because when George was tending to business, his guests would arrive through this door, right outside the gentleman's parlor, come in here, away in his guest seen all the nice work. They knew he had money and he could get things done. Now, when you're investigating in here, People do report cigar smoke. They also had asked George how much to pay in railroad stock, and he said 25. So now we're gonna move out into the hallway to these two cases. These are some items found in the mansion. This is an Addams Family Bible. It is a distant relative of GW. So it would have been some cousins of his. We actually have some newspaper articles from the disappearance of William Cox. We will get into him later. Upstairs in Mary's room, if you go through some of these and you go up there and talk, we have had reports of Anna communicating, but she does like to be called Miss Cox. Mrs. Cox. Okay, and then over here we have some Ohio State reformatory stuff. This is the suspension bridge that Mr. Adams had built himself, which we are also going to discuss over there in the gentleman's parlor. So now we will go ahead and go over to the library. All right, so GW's father, of course, was against slavery. And GW actually gave an anti-slavery speech, which is located over there in that photo frame. In 1840, GW is now 40 and it's time to settle down. He meets a young lady by the name of Clarissa Adams. She was from New York and she was also 20 years younger than him. Do you know why? Because he could. So they have 5 kids together. They have Edward, Anna, Mary, Elizabeth, and a little baby named George. So now we are up to 3 Georges. There will be a test later. Now, George also owns some farms, and he gets into other businesses, and he decides we need a bridge. So him and his wealthy friends get together, and they're discussing how to get this bridge built, and we call those people backers. But they did what they did best. They backed out, so George himself paid for that suspension bridge. Now, how is George going to make his money back? He's going to charge a toll to get across that bridge. But George, you still have family living on the other side of that bridge. Are you going to charge them a toll? Yes, he did. So in 1852, George held stock in the railroad. It was originally supposed to go through Dresden. They raised the taxes only for that railroad to not go through Dresden. He was also part of another railroad that goes to Zanesville. On Clarissa's 28th birthday, October 13th, 1852, little baby George passes away. In 1853, the following year, Clarissa herself passed away. 2 weeks after her death, their son Edward also passed away, leaving George with 3 daughters and no sons. Shortly after Clarissa passed away, George bought this property, which was originally 224 acres, but we are now down to under 4. So over time, it got sold off to make more money. Now, George did allocate 2 years for mourning. In that era, you did have to wait your 2 years. In 1855, he marries another young lady, Mary Jane Robinson. And she was from Coshocton, and she was 33 years younger than him, because he could. They married and lived across the street as they watched the mansion being built up out of a cornfield. So how cool is that?
Yeah.
Now these photos over here, these are the photos from 1988 when the house was originally set for demolition. Dave Wanneberger purchased this house because he was going to use it as a main headquarters, but then he ended up deciding that he was going to build the big giant basket up the road. Now, when Dave Wanneberger had purchased this mansion, it had sat vacant, and the Belvedere at the very tippy top of the mansion was actually in the ballroom. Now, this tea set right here is a replica of what was given to Mary by her father, and that was as a wedding gift. This fireplace over here, the original fireplaces that were in this mansion were white marble. So if you notice, this is definitely not white marble, so this would have been around the time that Anna and William Cox took over the mansion and made it up to date. We got a call a few years ago This was actually in a person's basement. The grandmother had passed away. The grandchildren said, hey, I think we have your fireplace mantle. You want it back? So they brought it over. Now these photos over here, some of them are of Edward's house, and somebody had set fire to it, so all that was left was a staircase. The Amish own it now. Now, we're gonna go into the mansion in George Blackburn. In 1855, this house is a quarter of the way finished when it catches fire. Now, how could it catch fire if there's no electricity? George Blackburn himself admitted to setting fire to the mansion to create more work for himself. The fire caused $12,000 worth of damage to the house and $1,200 worth of damage to the tools being used to build the house. George Blackburn was never arrested for it, but did admit to it. George Blackburn would also break into people's houses and steal from them. He would work with a group of friends and then say, it wasn't me, it was them. I didn't do nothing. He ended up killing somebody and went to prison for it. Now, at the Ohio State Reformatory, which explains why we have some of the Ohio State Reformatory stuff over there in the cases, George Blackburn was sent to the Ohio State Reformatory in Columbus at the time that they were building. So they had heard that he was a bricklayer, and what they did was they sent him up there. They knew he was the bricklayer. Hey, you know what? How about you guys help us out? You know, we'll put you to work as a bricklayer. Well, now he knows the ins and outs of the prison, and he pulls his Shawshank. So they caught him and they brought him back. A few years later, they put him on work detail outside the prison. So as he's working with his tools, he decides to set him down and walk off. They catch him, bring him back to the prison. He ends up dying from a heart attack at the Ohio State Reformatory. When his daughter went to claim the body, she didn't even use her rightful name. She was so ashamed. And then they buried him at the Green Lawn Cemetery in Columbus, Ohio. In this room, if you haven't noticed, the floors are very squeaky. So just keep that in mind when you're investigating in here. Also, when you're sitting in that room across from us, you will see shadows back and forth through this doorway. So there's a lot of shadow play in here. Now we're gonna head over here to the dining room. In 1856, the house was finished. The family did move in, and that included George, Mary, and his 3 daughters. Mary Jane had 6 more children. So you've got the original 3 daughters plus Sophia, John J., James, Charles, Jesse, and Florence. All of their kids plus the 3 older daughters lived their lives and grew up in this house. In 1879, G.W. passes away, and his daughter Anna is the one who takes over the house. She had married the boy next door, William Cox, because she had to marry somebody of her stature. She was 34, he was 29. Now when you're sitting in here, you can hear footsteps in the hallway. Our volunteer Amy, she was sitting here doing her little old lady thing, crocheting, and it was the end of the day, all the guests had left, and she heard a wood heel on wood floor coming up this hall. It had made the turn and stopped at that doorway right behind you. She turned around, seeing nobody was standing there, and she swears her eyes were as big as pancakes. So right back here, this would have been the breakfast room. So this door and that door, that starts the blocked off. It's shut off from the public at this time. All right, so now we are going to make our way over to George's bedroom. All right, so this is George's bedroom. If you notice the fancy woodwork, and then the shelves that are out there above those doorways, those used to be above every door in the house. So over the years when the house sat vacant, etc., they did come off. People coming in, breaking in, taken all those down. Now, here in the closet, this is actually a conjoined closet. So it goes from one side to the other. And there's also fancy shelves in there. We don't know why George was fancy in there, but he was. In 1860, George had 80 horses. They did not fit in that barn back here, so they were free range. He did have tenants, so he also provided horses for them. They were most likely plow horses, and he also had 13,000 head of sheep. So a story about George is he had made a trip up to Zanesville to finalize some of his papers. He was wearing a really nice wool suit, of course, because he had 13,000 head of sheep. When he got back, a couple weeks later, he had passed away. So they had the services, they buried him, they couldn't find his paperwork anywhere. What suit was George wearing at that time? Pretty sure it was his really nice wool suit. We buried him in it. So a bunch of his friends got together and they went, asked the cemetery, hey, can we check the cemetery for his paperwork? They got permission, they got in there, felt around, pulled out the paperwork. Yay. So they shut the coffin, put him back in the ground. Now the only people that know whether or not he was embalmed, because embalming back then was pretty popular, but he was also a religious man. So we don't know if it was against his religion to be embalmed. The only people that know are his best friends, and they didn't say a peep. Now, a neighbor about 5 miles away did keep a journal. And Miss Amy, our historian, did get to read that journal. And it said, August 31st, 1879, G.W. Adams of Prospect Place died at 7 a.m. He had congestive chill, which is a difficulty breathing kind of thing. Before he passed away, the family was getting everything together over at the businesses because he had the Underground Railroad and everything. But they helped out as much as they could whenever it came to, helping George with the Underground Railroad, switching back and forth between this house and the businesses, because if you kept bringing the Underground Railroad through here, obviously you're going to get caught. So they would rotate it. So he had his family for that. So in this room, we are pretty sure with that journal entry being written and him hearing about it the day of, we're pretty sure he passed away in this room. So when you're in here investigating, ask George if he's comfortable. Are you having any difficulty breathing? Do you need another pillow? Just try to comfort George tonight. Okay. So now we're going to go out to the hallway photos. So this photo right here is that little A-frame house that I was telling you about that the Adams family did live in while the mansion was being built. This right here is the portico that was originally on the outside of this door and on the outside of this door. So this photo right here will show you that one when it was still up. When George had passed away, his wife Mary had taken her kids and built this house in Zanesville. It does look like a miniature replica of Prospect Place. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to head upstairs to the servants' quarters. Now as we walk into the servants' quarters, please watch your step. This room right here would have been reserved for the butler, maybe the nanny, or possibly even used as a guest room. Now if you notice the woodwork in this room, it's about as fancy as it is in the dining room. But as we move further into the servants' quarters, you guys will take note that the woodwork gets a lot less fancy. We're going to head through this doorway right here into the closet. This is where the linens would have been kept for the house. Watch your step again. We're going to go down.
This place is huge.
Oh yes. So this room would have been a parlor. Now The room that I was telling you about earlier that is also closed off is this room right here. That's got a lot of junk in it. But that room is identical to this room, except it does not have a staircase. This will take you down into the kitchen. And then it also has a hole on the other side of this wall for the well. They would drop their bucket down, bring up fresh water, clean up, and start their daily chores. For this room, we've had a couple of reports. I haven't had anything bad happen to me, personally, but we did have an investigator sitting on those stairs right there. And he ended up jumping. It looked like he stood up and jumped across the room. Well, as it turns out, he said that he was pushed. People have been scratched in here, and people have also gotten on their little devices, demon or satanic. So I've never experienced anything bad here, promise. They also seem to be pretty fond of females, so that's probably why.
You think they're mostly men spirits?
I actually had contact with a gentleman. His name was Harold O'Reilly. He did say that he fought honorably in the war. He was traveling home. Now this came through a spirit box. We pieced together this information. He was walking home and he got hit in the back of the head repeatedly and everything went black. So we believe that since he was traveling, he kind of came here. I actually, for my first paranormal investigation, I was standing outside. I took a picture of this window right here, and I captured a photo of a man that is pretty tall. He came up to about here, and he was looking out the window. I asked, why was he looking out this window? And we got that this is his favorite window. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Bless his heart, I thank him for his service. This room right here, you're gonna notice that we've got a lot of graffiti, and then you're gonna start seeing more of that as we head up from when the house sat vacant. This room right here would have been the laundry room. Those little slits in the back, those would have been what they would dump their water down into. If you notice these pipes, we are currently standing above the kitchen, and we are right now above the kitchen sink. So we assume they would have dumped their water and it would have drained down in there. The kitchen downstairs looks identical to this room here, except right in between these two windows, there's a door. Now we do have a running joke around the mansion. The ghosts hate laundry as much as we do. We have never had any reports in here, but please don't forget to investigate in here. If you guys find anything, let us know on our paranormal page.
Okay.
Seriously, we love to read about it. All right, so now we are going to head over to the sick room.
Sweet.
This right here is another staircase that takes you downstairs just behind that gift shop door, which will take you into the kitchen as well.
Cool.
So here's the back balcony. It's nice and breezy. So if you notice, we've got a fence up. And that's because a couple years ago, right when COVID was about to hit, we had some people come into George's closet and they couldn't get back out. So they climbed back out through the window, came up these stairs into our tool room. So after reviewing the footage, they had their little masks on, expecting COVID. We didn't really notice anything missing. So we're like, okay, well, we're gonna put up a fence. So we bought all the materials for the fence. It's not very pretty, but it does the trick. We went to go and get our post hole digger. It was missing. They took off with our post hole digger, so guess what we got? A new post hole digger. Hey! So we haven't had any problems since then. Alrighty. Now here's the sick room. I do want to let you know that we do have a patient that's been in here for a while. Say hello to Elmo. Never gets better. Poor dog. I think he's lacking the sun. Alrighty, so this is what we call the sick room. We don't know why, because there is no fireplace in here. There is no closet, so I don't know who would want to stay in here. But then again, if you think about it, you want to keep people that are sick away from the family because they didn't have the vaccines. We don't think it would have been a room that people would have lived in. We believe that it was actually used for the servant side storage. If you notice the windows, they are pretty wavy. So those are the original windows. Thankfully, when the house sat vacant, nobody broke those out. So that is awesome. Now, what I haven't told you yet is, you know that George Adam had passed away on August 31st, 1879, and 2 days later, his oldest son, James, who was 21, also passed away. We don't know how he passed away, so if you want to ask James, did you die here? Did you fall off a horse? Did you hurt your head? Or maybe the stress of having to take over everything that his father was leaving to him really got to him, because his father was involved in a lot. So if you guys do get a good answer, or if anybody had passed away out here, please let us know. You know, how animals will go up to certain people but not others. I think that's the way the spirit world works. Yeah. I also want to know if there's an order, a chronological order. Because you'll find over here on the servant side, there's a head honcho. Tonight, when you're investigating, we'll step up. There's a dog anywhere, it's nice and breezy.
Cool.
Oh, I won't make you suffer in there. That's one of the questions that we are wanting answered, because there's a guy over on the servant side, he will take dominance. If you are communicating with somebody, this guy will say, no, you're not gonna talk. So he kind of hides the other ones from people. He likes to rule things on this side. So we're kind of curious, does George man the first floor, since that's where his bedroom is and his parlor? And then does somebody else run up here? I don't know. I would like the answers to that though. It's awesome. Now, the river is just over there. So his son, James, could have passed away from a ague. Do you guys know what ague is?
No.
Malaria. Mosquito bites.
Oh, wow.
A lot of mosquitoes with the river. Alright, so now we're gonna head over to the second floor.
Sweet.
I've always wanted to know though, is that a thing? An order for spirits. We actually had a video of a shadow coming up the stairs, kind of side to side. Somebody had just set their camera here and it was facing down there and you could see it.
Wow.
Alright, so this is Mary's room, and if you may be wondering, why is Mary's room upstairs, but his room is downstairs? Well, when people would come over and question her about what George was doing in secret with the Underground Railroad and such, she was upstairs. She doesn't know anything. So that's pretty smart. This was the first house in Muskingum County to have indoor plumbing. So she's got her own bathtub, her own toilet and sink. These cabinets up here are where the pipes are for the plumbing. And they also did have hot water. We don't know how, but they did have hot water. And then this closet right over here, these are not conjoined. So when you walk into this room, it's its own little dressing room. And then that door over there would have been the closet. This right here is Mary. And then the picture that he is currently looking at right now, that would be Anna. So after George had passed away, Mary took her kids and she moved them to Zanesville, and Anna married the boy next door, William Cox. Anna and William take over this house as well as the sister Mary. Anna and William did have a son named George, and they also had an adopted daughter, Constance. We'll be getting more into that as well over in the next room. So they take this house over, Anna and William do, and what happens is William, he loves to spend money. So he's spending, showing off how much he's got, and he actually creates debt for them. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna auction off some of the land. Well, the day of the auction, he's not around. He disappeared. Somebody had seen him over by the train station, and he had said, hey, I've got some business to tend to in Columbus. Can you go to Zanesville and handle this for me? And so the person said, yeah, sure. Well, he never came back. So he was never seen again. Somebody thought that a body that was found in a river was him, but it turned out not to be. And there was actually a motel that remembers seeing William. And usually he doesn't remember his guests that come through for the night. But this one was kind of odd. William had showed up with a man. And as he was checking in, William would not put that man's name down on the paper. Well, we need your name, sir. Please put it down. No. So there was a big fight, whether the guy said, just go to your room, fine, whatever, or turned him away and said, you gotta get out of here. We don't know. His son, George, once he reached adulthood, he did try to find his father, but he never succeeded. So that's really sad. Please be respectful of her. She is pretty heartbroken. That's one of the other investigators actually did report that she was really devastated that she still has not found William. So just talk about those articles and you'll get some responses in here. A lot of female voices in here. Now we're going to head over to Constance's room, which is also known as the upstairs parlor. So please feel free to use these chairs, the ones that you can't sit on. Perfect example. We've got those. So this is the upstairs parlor. As you can see, it is also pretty fancy. This is the floor where the wife and the children would have normally stayed because while George was tending to business downstairs, the kids could be up here roaming around, doing whatever they wanted to, which is awesome, you know, having a whole floor to yourself. This picture right here is of Jessie and her son Frank. It's an original photo that was blown up so we could put it on display. His granddaughter is the one that gave us that picture for us to display for everybody. Paranormal tours. So we've got a little ducky on display here. Please feel free to use this ducky. We actually had an investigator set up the ducky in the middle of the floor. And when an investigator said, hey, what are you doing? They got the response, playing with my ducky. So please use that. If you got any cat balls, you can set those up in here as well. This is Constance, the adopted daughter Constance. She does like to be called Miss Cox. And she does have a thing for one of our other investigators, bless his little heart. He's actually the one that brought these roses for her. We make a joke about him courting her because that's what they would do. She wanted one white rose and a dozen others. Now, we don't know much about Constance except that she also died at 21. One of the stories you may have heard is that somebody may have fell from this door out here or off the back balcony. We don't know if that's true or not. We don't have any stories about it. There did used to be that portico that was outside there, so when she fell ill, she could have went out there for some fresh air, trying to cool off, slipped and fell. We don't know for sure though. That first step is a doozy. And we've got enough ghosts, we don't need any more. So just ask if she's okay, if there's anything you can do for her. I have had reports of this actually happened to me. I was standing right here. We had a friend that was using the spirit box over in that blue chair, and there was fighting going on. These spirits were fighting. They were saying some pretty harsh words too. So I'm standing here like, what? And so just before you leave, make sure you say you don't have any permission to follow me home. Stay here, because the one said, I'm going to attach myself to you and follow you home and live rent free. I'm like, yeah, no you're not. This is the son's room. We actually think that this would have been more for the daughters. If you notice, the woodwork in here is pretty nice. It's got a really nice fireplace mantle, you know. It's really cool. We do have a volunteer. Her son, for the life of us, no matter how many times we shove him in this closet, will not stay there. They get a weird feeling. We don't know if the floor is uneven or what could possibly be going on with that. I've actually, heard reports about a male that doesn't know how he got here staying there. He goes in there, he'll come out here. I was trying the spirit box for the first time. I was really happy. I'm like, yeah! I came in through that doorway, stepped in, leave now. Okay, but I'm coming back tomorrow and cleaning your room. So the next day I showed up and I cleaned his room. We also had somebody set up some cat balls. They had their camera set up. And one by one, these cat balls would fly out of the room. They were thrown.
Oh, wow.
All right. So now we're gonna head over to the dog room. Over here is the daughter's room. We believe it would have been more suited for a nursery because it is right across from Mary's room. So all the littler kids may have been right here. That way it's convenient for Mrs. Adams to be able to tend to her children. In here, we also have small children. They do love to play. They love it. We actually had an investigator last night. The one little girl came running down the stairs and she goes, "The rocking horse, it just rocked." So use these toys. If you've got any dolls, there's that Boo Bear or whatever it is, sensor. They love that. There's also that candle. I forget what the candle's name is. It goes off of the senses. And it was going crazy over there on that. So feel free to use some of these dolls. Again, just make sure to put them back. We've got a music box over there. That is a shirt that we found in one of the closets as we were cleaning up.
Wow. That's incredible.
Oh yeah, yeah. We actually had that over at Mary's room, but for some reason, it kept falling over. So we moved it over here. Thankfully it didn't break. But we don't know if that's one of their original shirts or if somebody had tucked it back in that closet to use as a costume. But we put it up there. And then we've got this little tote over here. They've got some toys, some balls that you are more than welcome to use as well.
Sweet. How many children do you think are in here?
That we don't know for sure. That I wish we could give a tally. So some of them could have passed away here, some of the children, when they passed away, they could still be here. Some of these items are donated, so the attachments, like those dolls, the spirit could have been attached to one of the dolls and then brought here. So now that spirit that's attached to the doll is now here residing. Just like if I were to drive home after I'm done with you guys and there was a fatal accident, that spirit could possibly jump into my car. And now I've got a haunting at my house. So I mean, there's a lot of possible things. Near death could happen out here, and then they could pass away at the hospital, but this is the last thing they've seen. So they come here.
That's so true though.
Yeah. So, like I said, the graffiti gets worse as we head up. This would be the ballroom. Now, there is one thing I want you guys to keep in mind tonight when you guys are investigating up here. If you notice this piece of wood right here, please don't forget this. We've had a lot of people say, demons! It's not demons, it's doves. There are birds back here. So when you're investigating, just keep that in mind. We do have birds, and it's closed off, but they still get in. So, cat balls are really popular up here, as well as if you take these chairs and you move them over here, there is a lot of shadow play. Sitting in silence and just looking down there, you can see. Sometimes you'll see lights moving down there. Sometimes you'll see the shadows walking in front of those windows. But yeah, whenever people would come here for the lavish parties, what they would do is they would take off their coats and they would store them downstairs on that second floor part. We've got a lot of shadow figures up here. It is not true. This is not a portal to hell. I'm sorry to disappoint you. We've had people come over here and investigate, and I don't know if you guys have watched. There's a female, her name is Katrina, and she was working with Nick Groff.
Yeah, I
Used
know.
to be on Ghost Adventures. Okay, so there was a little practice done where they made up a story at one of their locations, and they went upstairs and they read this story. This child's name was Billy. He was X years old. He loved this, fell off a horse. He loves being tickled. He really enjoys, playing with this type of equipment. They let that set in after they read it, came back up a few hours later. They started asking questions, and through the recorder, they got the responses that they had wrote down. They made up the story, and they were getting those responses. So I don't know if that's an actual test that you guys would be able to do, but there's a lot of stories about this being a portal to hell, and you do get some responses. Demon. Okay, so Bad George, the one that took over from Launaberger buying the place, he basically made up that story. If you notice, this is the same color of paint that was used in the second floor parlor. He used this as a sale attraction. Hey guys, yeah, we put this cross here, we're blocking it off, no more bad spirits can come through. But we've got a portal to hell in the ballroom. No, he did that to get more people in because that's how he paid the bills, or supposedly paid the bills, because when we took over, we had a foreclosure notice. So now we are all free and clear, and we don't even need that. But yes, he made up that whole hoopla when it's the same paint as the upstairs parlor. So it's not a portal to hell. I am sorry to disappoint. I am wondering what the heck. And like I said, I don't know what he was doing with the money that he was raising. He didn't even have the second floor open to guests. He had all those doors locked. So if you watch like Ghost Hunters with Jason and Grant, who's no longer with them, I guess, you'll see that they had sat in the hallway. All the other doors were closed. They could hear stuff coming from the other rooms, but they couldn't get in because he had it all locked, which is silly. And then, like I said, we've got the servant side opened up. That was the side that he was living on, so he didn't have it opened up back there. Now we are gonna head upstairs to the Belvedere.
Sweet.
So if you notice, you can see 360 around this place. And you'll notice that there used to be shutters. So we've still got the spots here from where they used to be. So what they would do is they would shut those, light up a lantern, which would let the runaways know it's safe to come here. Also, you would have somebody up here, and you can see the entrance to the mansion. So I would be like, hey, Donnie, we got a guest coming. So somebody would be at the front door by the time that buggy with a horse would make it to the house. So you would be greeted as soon as you got here. And then they would take those horses over to the barn. Okay, we had an officer commit suicide. Danny Harlow. Bless his heart. Rest in peace. We do have a blue light up here. That's been a couple of years, but we still haven't taken down the blue light.
Gotcha.
He was a really gentle soul.
That's sad.
I worked with him at Walmart. He was asset protection, and he just had a lot going on. So now we are going to go to the cool part of the house.
Sweet.
So when it comes to the basement, there's stories that whoever had passed away here, a little kid, Constance, Miss Cox, it said that they had put the body downstairs in the basement to keep it cool over the winter because the ground was too hard to bury. Well, I can tell you nobody is buried on this property. So we're gonna head down to the basement.
Cool.
I love the basement. He didn't believe in a trash system, so all of his trash literally ended up in the backyard.
Wow, this is spooky.
Yes, a creepy door for a creepy house. Alright, so this is where they would have stored their food. So when it hit winter time and they couldn't grow any veggies and stuff, they would can their items and they would put them in here because it is pretty cool. For the items that wasn't canned, they would store back here. So this room back here would have been for the coal and also for their firewood. It's pretty tight back here. So they would have a farm hand that would come down here, pick up all this wood. Now, if you noticed, all the rooms in the mansion have a fireplace. So that farm hand would have to carry wood to every fireplace in this mansion. It is technically a 29-room mansion because they counted every single room that had a door. Actually, this would have been their refrigerator system and then their freezer. So what they would do is the Muskingum River is actually right over there. So they would bring blocks of ice and they would drop it down in that little hole right there. This one right here. They would take their chunks of ice right here. And there's a little tunnel that comes through here to keep their food cold.
Oh, wow.
I think it's awesome. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's awesome. For the Underground Railroad, I just want to ask, how do you think the railways would have got in here? They would actually walk. They did have a treacherous route to get here, but to get inside the mansion, they would use that door.
Oh, that door.
Yep. They would use that door. Now, how would you think they would alert Mr. Adams without being discovered? What they would do is, once they came in here, they wouldn't use a block of wood. They would have like a broom handle or something, but they would tap the floor. Mr. Adams, whose bedroom is right above us, would then in turn give some taps back. Okay, I know you're down there. I'll get down to you as soon as I can. So, like, it gives me chills every time I talk about that.
That's creepy.
That is awesome. I love it. He did so much. If he would have been caught running the Underground Railroad or being a conductor on the Underground Railroad, being any part of it, he could have lost his business. Like, he was risking a lot. This door right here, this takes you to another set of stairs that takes you into the Forbidden Kitchen. Only because it's getting cleaned up right now.
Okay.
And I'm really sorry. We are currently working on it. Now, they would come down these halls, and we've got these two rooms that they would go into for safety. Anybody know what this could be?
No clue.
No.
Wine cellar.
Oh,
Pretty simple.
Where's the wine at?
We drank it all. They didn't leave a drop for us. So over here is one of the rooms that the runaways would stay in. And any sign of danger, Mr. Adams would alert the runaways and they would shut off these windows. You can't really see it on this one, but the other room over there has the little hinges from where the shutters would have been. So they would get alerted, they would stay low till they got the all clear. And once they got the all clear, they would either continue as to what they were doing or move on to the next house. So I'm gonna go over and show you this room where that's hidden. And then comes the hallway, my favorite part. So there is shadow play in this room and the other room. But this is where those hinges would have been for the shutters. And then this right here would have been for their lantern, so that they had some light.
wow.
I was in the middle between two other investigators, and I'm sitting there, but where they had set my seat, I was kind of back, so I needed to lean forward to be able to see into these rooms. They were talking about shadows, and I'm like, where? Not seeing any, and then my stomach would rumble. You always have that one in the group. So I leaned forward, and my friend goes, hey, Shawna, did you just stand up? No, I'm still sitting. I just leaned forward. He goes, oh, because something just moved right in front of me really fast. So I've got a little joke where I leaned forward into a ghost and it was in an area that he didn't want me in, so he took off. Sorry. I'm still sorry for that. So I moved my chair up so I could see what they were talking about. And from this room over here, cold breeze, fast cold. Twice, and then up there where that fan is where I walked through a cold spot. And there was a definite difference. There is no air movement. It just went,
Oh, just
and
like.
then it was gone.
Oh, okay.
And then the second time wasn't as long. It was kind of like, and then it stopped right here. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe somebody's touching my face or something. I don't know. But as I was walking up there, everything else around me was room temperature, what it is right now. And I walked into it and I'm like, oh, whoa, that is really cold. So I stuck out my arms and I'm like, yeah, where I'm standing right now is really cold, but out here is not. I almost punched somebody in the face on that. Because they were following me and I stuck out my arms and I bowed down. We are gonna go over to the barn where I've also had some really cool experiences.
Awesome.
But yeah, just sitting down at the end of the hallway, you'll get some really good activity. It may take about 20 minutes, so be patient with them. We had a REM pod set up towards where that fan was as well. Maybe you can get that REM pod to go off. I've had no luck getting a REM pod going off in that hallway.
What's this for? It looks like some sort of stage.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is for our music at the mansion.
Oh,
That
wow.
we're having July 13th, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it an annual thing?
We're gonna try to make it.
Cool.
An annual thing. Just like we are having the Civil War reenactment at the end of July. So the bounty hunter. So George was doing all kinds of secret things, and a bounty hunter shows up, knocks on the door, and he is talking to Mr. Adams about releasing his slaves. Now, the South would hire bounties from the North because the Northerners know the land. Even though the runaways had made it to a safe place in Ohio, they are still property. So, they would hire people up here to get the slaves and bring them back. And they would get paid. So this bounty hunter shows up and he goes, I know you have them, release them. Mr. Adams says, I don't know what you're talking about. I need you to get off my property. No, release them now. So he pulls out his Colt and he says, no, get off my property. So the farmhands see the struggle. The farmhands follow the bounty hunter, bring him back here, took him up to the 3rd floor. Now, unfortunately, you guys will not have access to the 2nd or 3rd floor. I'm sorry, but it is unsafe. But some people have said that it's safer than the mansion's floor. So they brought him back here, had the mock trial, found him guilty. They dropped him from the 3rd floor down to the 1st. Now, the Ghost brothers actually brought a cadaver dog, and the cadaver dog was hidden in one of these stalls. However, we have groundhogs so big that you can put a saddle on them and ride them, okay? So he was hitting on the big mama that had made her home over there. Now, this right here would have been where they dropped the bounty hunter if it supposedly happened. Again, Mr. Adams was doing a lot of stuff, and if he was found out, he could have lost everything. Everything. So, the story of the bounty hunter is just a legend. Do you really think that the farmhands would have put Mr. Adams at risk and hung somebody here and then buried him on the property? I don't think so. I don't think so. No, because if they followed him to his campsite, which would have been by the river for water, they would have just drowned him out there. Okay? Mark Trot, you're guilty. You're done. Sink ya. But anyway, that's the legend of the bounty hunter. Now I'm going to say that I was out here for a paranormal academy that we had last year, my very first ghost hunt. And so I was out here bad-mouthing, like I usually do, just because I wasn't getting nothing. So I was over here and I was taking some photos. Now, there is a window over there through that little crack, but it wouldn't make the face that I had captured. Unfortunately, I didn't.
You
But
captured a face?
I did. and it shifted. So it went from a big white misty blob into a face with what looks like a horn. So it was the same photo. I have an iPhone and I had it set to live photo, so you could start at the very beginning of the photo when I started taking it and move your finger across as it develops. And I'm not kidding, I was like, whoa! Because I was standing still and you could see this thing coming through. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I caught that one, and then the other one, I was standing right back here taking pictures, and it looked like from the waist down, you could see something develop, and it looked like somebody with pants. Okay, so you could see the leg and everything, and then it was gone. So it was there, got bigger, gone. So I came out here and I'm like, okay, what back there could look like legs that is white? And everything around it was black, so I have no idea.
How far away were you?
I was right here because I
Wow.
didn't want to be clear out there. And these doors, sometimes they do get a little wiggly when they're not shut. And we actually had one of these shut on somebody. So I try not to stand by these doors just in case somebody gets angry and wants to hit you. Now, remember when I told you that the mansion had caught fire?
Yeah.
Okay, so the mansion, when it caught fire, they had used all that brick that was in the mansion at the time, and they brought it out here. They built this barn, they built that smokehouse with the brick that was original to the mansion, and then they replaced their mansion brick with new brick. We were all upstairs and we were doing the dowsing rods and things and the spirit box, but one of our investigators had gone through and wiggled herself out of the ballroom, went downstairs onto the second floor, and whoever was staying in the son's room said, I don't know why I'm here. Help me. Get me out of here. I don't know why I'm in this location. And the investigator said, well, unfortunately, I don't do that. And if I got you out of the house, I don't know where you're going to go. I can't do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now we know that it was part of the Underground Railroad, and I think it's up in Zanesville. There is a plaque listing the mansion as being part of the Underground Railroad, but there is no documentation as to how many came through, because that was all secret. If you kept the bookwork, that's evidence to be found. The house is actually built over their well as well.
Okay.
That way you didn't have to go outside to get it.
Do you think there's slave spirits here as well?
I think there is, because some of them had really bad conditions to find this place. Like, some of them could have already been sick while they started making the travel, and then came here, they could have passed away. That door that I had showed you before we came up here, they could have used that one to get the supplies down to the slaves, the runaways. That way they had food, they had medicine, etc. We actually had a group that came in. I was really devastated with this group. I didn't want to be, but, you know, I was like, oh, cool, you guys have a YouTube channel? Oh, it's the Spirits Backers. Yeah. Those people came in here and they were like, oh, listen, it's a demon. And I'm like, it's not a demon. And then some of the things that we were telling them, like, they were standing on that landing, and they had mentioned, oh, guys, did you hear that? Somebody's talking. And me and my my other volunteer, that's a board member, she said, that's the dog next door. But they'll put the dog away. Well, they cut her saying that out, and they left in the part about, yeah, did you hear that? Yeah, somebody's talking. And then the dove's upstairs. Hoi, there's a demon. It's a demon. No, it's, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you guys are making me sick. Like, we told you that there was birds in the wall. No, it's not
Yeah.
a demon.
That's crazy.
So I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to call them out, but I never did.
So the windows are on what floor again that we have to make sure?
The second floor.
Second.
Yep, we made sure to leave all these ones shut just in case, because our last night guests did forget to shut.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Austin here. Tonight I am in Trinway, Ohio at the Prospect Place Mansion. We're gonna do a full paranormal investigation. This place is supposedly filled with paranormal activity. There's a lot of shadow people here, as Shawna was telling us in the tour. Balls and toys will move on their own. A bunch of stuff will happen here. You'll see something out of the corner of your eye and then it'll be gone. So we're gonna see what we can get tonight. All right, guys, so I'm on the first floor of the building right now. I have the PSP7 spear box here. If you haven't noticed, I have a brand new night vision camera, which I will start implementing into my new investigation. So any investigation from now on will have night vision. So I'm going to be doing a lot of investigating in dark rooms. I have a light going right now, but once I get around this building, I'm going to just use that camera. So how many spirits inhabit this property? Can you please give me a number? What is your name? If there's anybody here with me on this first floor of the Prospect Place, can you please give me your name? I heard something there, it was very faint. The tour guide Shawna said it might take like 20 minutes for, to warm up to me, so I'm just keeping that in mind. What is your name? If you're here with me on this property. Not too much coming through the spear box, not even like interferences, which is weird because if anything there will be a lot of interference, but I'm not really picking up much right now. Is there anybody on this first floor of the Prospect Place with me? Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those rooms where, I don't know. I'm just not getting a whole lot of activity in this room. Is there anybody in the servants' quarters with us right now? Any spirits here with us? If you're here with us in this building, you can use this device I'm holding right now to communicate. How many spirits are on this floor? How many people have died on this property? Heard something there. It had to be like one of the first answers I heard that didn't sound totally like a radio station. I heard another really faint voice there. Is there any spirits here with me that suffered violent deaths? I heard a faint voice there. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Right before the radio.
Do you want us to leave?
Do you want us to leave this property? Ooh, dude, you hear that? Right after I asked that, there was like a little short something. I don't know what it was.
I don't know. Ask it again, make sure.
Do you want us to leave the property? Yes or no? Can you give some sort of sign that you're here with us tonight? That was weird. I mean, it definitely could have been a radio. I'm not just gonna sit here and say everything is evidence, but I don't know, it was just like a little burst and then nothing. Are you watching us right now as we investigate this house? Are you watching us? Alright, so I got the REM pod and K2 and the spirit box again. Hopefully we can catch up something in this room. I haven't really honestly gotten too much activity yet, but I hope we can catch something. Alright guys, so now we are in that room with the creepy dress that I showed you earlier. And yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten too much yet. I'm not going to play it off like the spirit stalkers and say I got all this shit when I didn't. Because honestly, there just isn't a lot going on right now. So anyways, let's see if there's any activity up here. Is GW Adams here with us tonight? Ooh, I heard a deep voice right there. Is GW Adams here with us? Does he haunt this mansion? Ooh, I heard something there too. Does GW Adams haunt this property? I heard like a very faint 27, I don't know for sure. It could sound totally different when I look back at it when I'm editing, so we'll see. But that's interesting. Yeah, it was faint. Hopefully I'll be able to look back and hear it better. How many spirits are in this room with us? Alright guys, so now we are in the attic. This cross was painted by the former owner. It was just a scam that the former owner ran, so more people would come here and they would give him more money. I'm trying to just do the hot spots that she told me about, so let's see if we can get anything up here. The last room we were in was a little bit more active than the first two. Dude, is that... Dude, where is this coming off? How many spirits are in this attic with me right now? Can you please give me a number of how many souls are on this property? I still haven't gotten a number. I usually try to get a number at the places I go to, but it's tough to get an answer here, I feel like. If you're here with me in this attic, can you please touch that red light over there by the wall? If you're here with us? If there's any... Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Is G.W. Adams on this property still? Does he haunt this property? Ooh, what was that? Didn't sound like a radio. Is G.W. Adams here with us right now? Are you here with us? Are you a positive or negative energy? Ooh, who's that? Like a female voice. Could have been radio, but... Whoa. You hear that?
Yeah.
It was like the same voice. Is there a female up here in this attic with us? Is there a female spirit? Alright guys, so we're in the basement of the Prospect Place right now, allegedly the most haunted location on the property. Hopefully we can get some more activity than we did in the other spots. We got some pretty good activity up in the attic. Nothing crazy, but we'll see what we can get here. The tour guide Shawna said this is where the slaves would stay when they would escape and they would come here. They would hide in the basement. So this is where all the slaves would stay, so I know that there is a lot of residual energy all around me. So hopefully we can get something to answer us. Somebody will come through. Is there anybody in this basement of this mansion that is willing to communicate with me using this device? Alright guys, so I'm going to wrap it up for tonight's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know we didn't really get as much activity as we would have wished. I still have to look back at the footage, but I'm also just not going to fake anything ever. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the accurate history and the accurate paranormal evidence that I showed you guys. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation that I gave you about this place. Drop a like, leave a comment about what you thought, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.